What's up, Instagram followers? This week I just want to do a quick video. It's actually may not be that quick. It depends on how much I get into the subject on sus2 and sus4 arpeggios. My friend Marcelo Barbosa plays guitar for the band Angra. Great player, super nice guy. He did a reel, I believe, 1 or 2 weeks ago. Basically, it was a quick explanation of what these are and kind of how they work. But I want to go into a little bit more detail and actually show you some shapes that work well for me for these arpeggios or triads, however you want to, whatever you want to call them, I should say. Basically, the idea of a suspended chord means that you're altering the third note of the scale, or the chord in this case. You're either lowering it to the second or you're raising it to the fourth. If you lower it, you get what's called a sus2 arpeggio or chord. If you raise it, you get what's called a sus4. So I'm hoping a lot of you know basic chord theory in regards to triads. I'm going to base my examples on C major because there aren't any sharps and flats. Sorry, I'm not the best speaker. Sometimes I mumble a little bit, but you know what? That's being human. So instead of C, E, G, which would be the three notes of the major chord or the major arpeggio, which everybody probably knows these shapes like, so instead of those, an example of the sus2, we're gonna lower the middle note, which is the third, which in C major is E. So the E is gonna drop down. For the sus2, it's gonna drop down to a D. It's going to replace the third. So now our chord or triad formula is going to be 1, 2, 5, and the notes are going to be C, D, and G. So what we can do is we know we have a C, E, G here. We can simply lower that third to the D note, and there's a couple ways you can play it. You can either do the stretch here and get it this way, which is a 8 on the low E, 5 and 10 on the A string. And of course, it can be repeated in octaves. And again. Or if you're really comfortable with the rolling technique, and a lot of people are not, you can just do the first two notes on the low E, which is going to be the C and the D, which is 8, 10 on low E. And then you're going to bar over or use your pinky to grab the 10th fret on the A string for the 5th note. So there's that, and that's, once again, that should be repeated in octaves as well. So let me do that for you real slow. Right? And one of my favorite ways to play these sus arpeggios or chords is to use tapping, because it really eliminates a lot of the stuff that you have to do in regards to muting. I mean, you still have to mute, but it eliminates the rolling technique and the big stretches. So what I'm going to do, I mean, obviously the first two notes in a sus2 are very simple to play. It's just 2 frets apart. So we're just going to play. So you can just hammer on the A10. And if you know basic guitar theory, you know that a 5th from the root is always 7 frets higher. So basically, I'm going to know I have my 1 and 2, which is A10. So 7 notes higher than the root, C, is a G at the 15th fret. So I'm going to do 8, 10, and I'm going to tap the 15 on the low E, and that's going to give me a sus2 as well. So you can get that moving pretty quick, right? And just some variations with it. Same thing, we're repeating octaves. Do some sequencing with it. And I'm fucking it up already. But that's fine. The purpose of this video is to show you. It's not to pretend I'm a perfect player, but I'm obviously by no means a perfect player. So a little quicker, So that's one way to do the sus2. If you prefer to do like a sweep pattern or a picked type of thing, you can do a couple different ways in one octave. Starting on the C note, you can grab the D note on the 5th fret of the A string and get the 5th fifth of the chord up here, the G on the 10th fret. This is a little bit of a stretch, so it's going to get an 8, 5, 10. And that lends itself really well to like arcana picking, or even you could just hammer it on, you know. Or hybrid pick, that's nice too, right? And another one you can repeat in octaves, any of these you can. And you definitely should try them in different octaves. Right? The other approach, which is going to require you either to use your pinky or roll your third finger. Some people really hate doing the rolling technique on guitar. It's really a struggle for some people. I'm okay at it. I wouldn't say it's like my best, like strongest gift or anything, but if you use the rolling technique, you can do 8, 10 on the low E to get the 1, 2, and you can pick up the 10th fret on the A string, the G note, by barring, like I said, or rolling, like that. Or you can, if you don't like rolling, you could use your pinky to get it right. So I'm just doing this. It's kind of a tight squeeze with the fingers, but it works. You know, I actually prefer to roll because it's easier than me trying to squish my finger in there. Repeat those in octaves, and of course you should do them descending as well. One cool thing you can do is like sequence stuff with them, like right? You could even slide up to the root again. And if you want to, you could also get up to the D, which is the second. But resolve on the root's probably going to sound better. Additionally, you can spread them out to a 3-string thing, so you could get more of a sweep pattern. That's going to entail in like this pattern. So the 5th is like that shape for. That's going to be, so it's going to be 8 on the low E and 5, 5 on the A and D strings. That's a good hybrid picking exercise too. Right? And once again, octaves, you know, you want to. And keep in mind, if you do the octave, you're going to change the fingering here because of the way the tuning is on the B string. So you're going to move that up to the 8th fret. Right? And if you could nail another C here, because if you know your fretboard, you know you got another C on the high E there. So that's 10, 7, 8 on the D, G, and B strings, but you can also get the root again there, and you could add the second as well again. And if you wanted to do a cool thing, you could also tap, you know, the root, I mean the 5th again, sorry, on the 15th fret, right? Right? Or slide to it. So it's got a really cool sound. And there's more ways you can do that. You can link the fretboard, you know, some arpeggio patterns. Wrong key, sorry. Right? And don't forget, these all, just like any other triad, these are going to have inversions. I'm not going to show them all to you because it's kind of outside the scope of this lesson. But if you take the C, D, and G notes for the sus2 and you change the order up, you know, you can basically form these on your own, you know, just take some time to explore the neck and figure them out, right? One of the cool ones for sus2 that a lot of people don't realize is this a very common chord in metal is actually, it's like a 9th chord as well, but it's an inversion of the sus2 chord. It's this shape. So you're gonna hear a lot in metal. Obviously, if you add that, it turns it into a minor 9, which is a beautiful sound. But on its own, it's a nice sus chord. I'm going to play with open B. Right? So that's another sus2 shape you can use. Basically, anywhere on the fretboard, you can get a C, D, and G in the key of C. You can do a sus2, so you got another one here. You know, just anywhere. Once you learn and memorize the fretboard more, you can, you know, know these notes inside and out. I mean, that's the eventual goal, right? To be able to play anything you want to anywhere on the fretboard. Okay, so that's sus2, and sus4 is, you can basically use almost the same shapes that I'm using now, or same methods, and just replace the second note with a 4th. So in the key of C, that's going to be C, F, and G, 1, 4, and 5. So the basic shape, and this one's going to be like the sus2 is easier to do on one string, and this one's actually the bigger stretch. Doing the first two notes on the same string is actually a bigger stretch here, so it might be a little more challenging for people. So it's going to be 8 to 13, 5 frets for a fourth, and then you're going to get your fifth there. You're the same 10th fret that we were doing for the sus2, right? To do the octave. It's got a pretty cool sound, right? You can play both directions. You know, do a little bit of like, and then so you can get the root there. And you actually can get one more note if you bend the 24 to the 25. You could get another note from the sus4. But similarly, so there's that fingering. That's a stretchy one. Playing the first one on the same string. This one, for this one, it might actually be easier to play the 4 and 5 on the next string up because they're only 2 frets apart. So you got this shape, another rolling shape, right? I actually like that pattern quite a bit. Just doing it in octaves. I'm just simply moving this up an octave. I'm doing some sequencing with it. Okay, and similarly, you can do this shape. It's a little awkward. 8, 8, 5, 8, 8, 8 on the A. The E and A, and 5 on the D. That's a pretty hard one to do, especially with rolling. But you could use the third finger if you want. You know, it's actually a little easier to octave up because you don't have the big of a stretch. It's 10, 10, 8 there. Right? So you got one here too. You can get it, hit your octave. And once again, hit your 25th fret for the high note if you want to get it in there. So I've given you ways to form both the sus2 and the sus4. Oh, and let me mention real quick, obviously, another one you want to do with tapping, right? So you still got your big stretch, 8, 13 for the 1 and 4, but you only have to tap the 50 the same. So you got a nice, cool repeating shape you could use here. Right? And you can tap if you want to be tricky, you can tap there. Get the octave up there on the C note. It's a little more tricky. So basically, that's some applications. That's what a suspended 2 and a suspended 4 is. I've given you multiple fingerings. My advice to you is take these, learn the inversions on your own. For instance, just change the order. So the root of a sus2 is C, D, and G. So you want to do like a D, G, and C for the first inversion in that order. And then a G, C, and D for the second inversion. And then I'm not going to get into this because it's outside the scope of the lesson, but you also have spread triads where you can do like drop 2 voicings, which are kind of outside the scope of this, but it's basically just changing the order again or raising the middle note up an octave. There's all kinds of stuff you can do. I mean, learning these triads is incredibly powerful thing. And if you get, you don't want to just learn major and minor and diminished when you have things like these sus2 and sus4, because it's just going to give you more flavor options for your solos, and it's going to give you something that sounds pretty cool, and it has good resolution. Obviously, you don't want to linger on the 4th or the 2nd too long because they're tension notes, but they resolve very nicely. Both the 5 and the 1 are really strong chord tones. So I hope this lesson helps you. Please like and subscribe. Ask me any questions in the comments. I'll be happy to answer them if I can, if I know the answer. That's it. Hopefully this gives you a good overview of sus2 and sus4 voicings. Take care, everyone. Thank you for subscribing to me, the ones that you do. Spread the word, and happy guitaring, people.